This episode is brought to you by Spironi. Revolutionize your shop floor with Spironi, where cutting-edge technology meets craftsmanship. Elevate precision, amplify productivity. Spironi. Experience, tradition, the future. Hello, and welcome back to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast, where we turn the hum of a factory into a symphony of culture. I'm your host, Jim Mayer. Don't forget to keep the good times rolling at manufacturingculturepodcast.com and give us a shout on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Let's keep this party going online. Now, folks, I need you to stop what you're doing and listen up. We've got a guest today who's so electric, so dynamic, you'll feel like you've been hit by a bolt of lightning. Give it up for the one, the only, the absolutely mind-blowing Jacob Sanchez. Hold on to your caps because Jacob's story starts with a full cooking class. Yeah, you heard that right. But the universe had bigger plans. It said, step aside, Gordon Ramsay. We've got ourselves a manufacturing aficionado. Jacob's not just any ace, though, folks. We're talking about a founding member of Titans of CNC Academy, straight out of high school. Have you ever heard of a career trajectory that skyrockets like a SpaceX launch? That's Jacob. 6 years as a 5-axis CNC mastermind, Jacob's been elbows deep in aerospace, medical tech, you name it. But wait, it gets even crazier. He's been bitten by the automation bug, and now he's automating like a robot on Red Bull. If you think I'm hyped, get this. His LinkedIn channel is popping. Nearly 5,000 followers and over 4 million views. Jacob's out there making waves as a public speaker and a megaphone for Gen Z. You want inspiration? This guy's like a walking, talking fireworks show. Get ready to be shaken, stirred, and absolutely revitalized. Jacob's here to inject a mega dose of passion and bring down the house with his zest for our industry. Jacob, welcome to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. I'm pumped up, so let's blow the roof off this episode. Welcome to the podcast, Jacob Sanchez. How are you doing today, my friend?
You know, man, I'm happy that this is actually not a video podcast right now because I was blushing. I had to hide my face in it, man. That was awesome. That was an amazing intro.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And maybe that's just yet another push for me to do video, because I would love to see people's facial reactions as they hear these intros. I think that would be a fun thing to see.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to get that on a recording. I'm going to play that every morning when I wake up. That's going to get me ready for my day.
I think you just said that I'm like Stuart Smalley from SNL back in the day. That might be, as you being a Gen Z person, that might be before your time. But Google Stuart Smalley SNL when we're done today, and check that out, because gosh darn it, you're good enough. So Jacob, today we're going to go through your story, man. I want to hear your story. I mean, your bio was awesome. The conversation that we had was awesome a couple of weeks ago. You and I have been connected for quite a bit of time on LinkedIn, a couple of years, I think. But we've never had a conversation. And that's kind of the fun part of this podcast. I'm having conversations with people that I've been connected with, but never really actually talked to, or for lack of a better term, met in person. So you and I get to meet at FabTech. That's coming up. People who are listening, it'll be way before this episode comes out, but that's okay. But I'm excited to hear your story. I'm excited to ask you some questions about your perspective on the industry. So you ready to get started?
Yeah, I mean, you already hit it on the head a little bit with that the cooking class thing, man. I'll jump in with letting everybody know this industry was never a part of my future, present, past. Like, this was nothing to me. I grew up with no knowledge of how I got the things that I was using every day. I was a little a hustler kid, and because I grew up in California, I grew up in a small town in California. I was a little hustler kid since I was like, I think in first grade. I get told stories of me being a scoundrel. Um, and one of them was apparently I used to charge kids bark to use the slide like on the playset, and if they didn't pay me in bark, I would like shove them off the playset. In my defense, the bark was everywhere. And
are we talking like bark off of a tree?
No, bark off of the place, like because they had
like
in the playground,
like the chips, the bark chips. That oh my gosh!
So in my defense, it was everywhere. Like you could grab it on your way up. But apparently, I was just a little scoundrel, good for nothing. And the only careers I ever saw, even like growing up and stuff, was my mom working 2 jobs. So barely saw her, but I knew she was like just worked in like medical. I didn't know what she did. Okay. And then the dad that raised me, I saw him do construction stuff. So like building homes, he's a contractor.
Yep.
But that was literally it. Other than that, like my aunts worked in schools, like as the office ladies. So those were the only 3 careers I ever saw in my entire childhood.
Wow.
My goal that everybody like instilled in me throughout my schooling was like, Jacob, just please finish 5th grade. Jacob, please make it to 8th grade. Okay, you're in high school now, buddy. You got to graduate high school. Okay, that was it.
Just mini goals for you along the way. Hit this milestone. Yeah.
So I never, dude. There was never a job I was looking forward to. Because even like the construction stuff my dad did, I tried to get into it, and I remember him telling me one day, he was like, buddy, I want you to know that I don't want you to do this work. I don't want you to be like me. I don't want you to have to do what I do. Like, find something to use your head.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean use my head? I barely get C's in school. This head's not working, Dad. And so that was weird. That was a weird thing to have, and not being able to look forward to anything. The only like experience I've ever had with, I guess, I don't know, robots in general was freaking growing up loving Iron Man. Like to me, Tony Stark and Iron Man, that's what an engineer was. Like, that's how cool you can be to invent things. And because it's a movie and it's fake, I obviously associated that job with being fake for me.
Sure.
And yeah, it wasn't until high school when I moved to a new school freshman year, and I was picking my electives. And I obviously, because I wanted to get my easy A's and finish school, I tried to get cooking class, tried to get home ec.
Yeah.
And like every other freshman in my school of like a few thousand, they tried to get it too. And I got kicked out because it's priority based. And so you get thrown into whatever electives are open. And engineering elective was open. And dude, I was so mad. I was furious. I sat in the back of the classroom, knowing nobody, hanging out with like the grungy skater kids. And one of the first, like the icebreakers was you had to make a paper airplane. Like, who can make the paper airplane the best to go the farthest? I can't stress enough how much I've always hated arts and crafts throughout school. And so I wish I could explain the anger, man. It was unreal. And long story short with that is I ended up staying after school in that program because it was the only one that like the teacher would just stay late because he was just a monster, man. He was a bio ag teacher teaching CNC machining, manufacturing, engineering, like not in his field. And he was always writing grants and stuff. And I didn't like going home. So I asked him, I was like, hey, if I clean your machines, can I like stay after school? And he said, yeah. So I started doing that, and I started asking questions outside of class. He started showing me things. I eventually started machining on a manual lathe for the first time. I made a ring, and I remember wearing that ring around school and all these adults and kids being so impressed, asking how I made it. I told them I made it. They looked at me like I was stupid and like, you know that? And then once I saw that, dude, I was like, oh. I was like, I'm not supposed to be able to do this. And then I started diving in, man. Then it consumed the rest of my high school career.
No kidding. That's awesome. I love that the angst, you could almost feel the teenage angst that you had
Oh,
just
dude,
sitting in the back of that room, just fuming
it was
and then not wanting
disgusting.
to go home and just finding something to do. I love that story, man. It's
Yeah,
great.
and especially because I was a reader too. So like when I first moved to that new school, so I didn't have any friends there. So I
Right.
would like read during lunch. And I remember after I graduated high school, my mom telling me, she's like, you know, when you came home from school your first day and told me that you read during your lunch, I cried. And I was like, oh, thanks, mom. Oh, like, okay, thank you for telling me that 3 years later. It's exactly what I need to hear. Because I've always loved reading, man. It was funny that I was bad at school, not because I didn't try, but because I didn't see a point in it. Because if
Sure.
cause school is honestly, it seems pointless when like you see no end goal to it other than to finish.
Yeah.
And so I would actually do my homework and I would do my work, but I would turn it in late or not turn it in at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like the work wasn't getting done. I was just being lazy because I didn't see a point.
Yeah.
Or if you're teaching me something that I don't see a point in how I'm going to use it, my brain can't associate it with anything, so it doesn't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But reading, man, I'd read the heck out of books all day long. But that's a funny thing nobody knows is that it's not like I was bad at school, because when I actually did end up going to, because I wasn't going to college out of high school either. That's the whole thing. People at my school, like my executives, like the principal and stuff, they didn't think I was going to amount to anything because I was all in CNC machining and manufacturing. I was doing machinist meetups for local businesses at 16.
Wow.
As you said, I was working with Titans of CNC Academy, helping develop and start the academy outside of the prison system. That's where it started.
Right. So let's sorry to interrupt you,
No, you're
but
good.
you have to tell the story of how that came about,
Yeah.
because that's amazing.
Yeah, the Titans of CNC Academy, which anybody can look up now, started in the prison system. Titan Gilroy started in the prison system. He had his own CNC machine shop. His whole background is unreal. So look into that. But my school was 15 minutes away from his shop in Rockland. And so Stuart, which was my mentor for the longest time, would come to the school to work with us after. And so I would spend a bunch of time with this guy. And then he told Tyan, he was like, hey, man, the school, like the kids are insane there. Like we got to do something. And so we were like the guinea pigs for the first ever use of the curriculum outside of the prison system.
Wow.
It was me and 4 of my friends, I think, is like who it started with. And then it got worked into all of the other periods in the class. And yeah, I'd work with Stuart. Oh, dude, I would be in there during football games. I'd be in there on weekends. I'd be in there. I would be in my math class finishing a quiz, and I'd say, "Hey, teacher, can I go to Dan's to go work on this?" And then they would be like, and then I'd pipe in and say, well, just so you know, if you do say no, I'm just going to ask to go to the bathroom and go anyways. So if you say yes, you'll know where I am and I can come back.
We're going to save a whole lot of time if you just say yes.
And so that was insane, man. Yeah, I was helping other schools and other teachers. I was helping teach teachers at 17 how to use this curriculum and implement it.
Wow.
Titan hired me right out of high school because I was telling all of my friends, and my teacher was all about it. And then other teachers like, yeah, I'm going to be a CNC machinist and do this. And they all thought I wasn't going to amount to anything because I wasn't going to college after.
Yeah.
So they just roped me off. Right. And I graduated with a Gene Haas Foundation scholarship. Titan hired me right out of high school. I started Job Shop. I was running I was running 3 to 4 machines a day, 2 op A's, usually an op B, and then the 4th is usually a setup or some programming.
Wow.
For what, 5 years almost? Because I was programming since I was 15 and machining since I was 15, but actually in production started at 18.
Wow.
And 2 years into that is when we started going full video production at Titans, where he's like, you're not going to get paid to make parts anymore. You're going to get paid because people are going to pay us to make videos. And I was like, all right. Everybody was just like, okay. And so, dude, the journey learning social and being an on-camera talent and coming up with these ideas to teach people about CNC machining like it was crazy.
That's wild.
And that was all while we were in California still, man. I helped me, Titan, and some of the team would go to a lot of college for award ceremonies. We'd go to help the teachers out. I would still do that in my free time. I loved programming, dude. I was oh my God, ball tracking. I love ball tracking, dude. Some people may not know about the term ball tracking. It's 3D profiling, finishing. But that was one of my favorite skill sets that I developed. But yeah, man, and then I was with them when we moved to Texas. I was a part of getting a lot of the partnerships that they got. And the Fanuc one is what got me into automation, dude. When I had to make my own robot cell from scratch on a robo drill, one of the fastest mini machines in the industry, insane. Yep. It hit me. I was programming collaborative robots, industrial robots to go lights out machining. And I was like, this is awesome because I have no idea what I'm doing and it's hard and I like it.
You've never taken the easy route, have you?
Dude, none of my skill sets I have were ever trained into me. Like I learned them on the spot.
That's awesome.
And even when I left Titans and I went to my application engineering job that I had for almost 2 years in Michigan, where I know zero people, no coworkers, no family, nothing. I was not qualified to be an engineer. I didn't have a degree. I didn't have anything. And they hired me because of the skill set I learned being a machinist. And then I learned how to be an engineer.
Awesome.
Dude, it was a wild ride. I guess that kind of sums up to me now. I started my LinkedIn channel when I got that engineering job because I missed making content. Yeah. I've been doing that for 2 years now, and you already said the numbers for the channel on LinkedIn. I'm starting a TikTok soon, later in 2023.
Wow. I might actually have to download TikTok. If you're going to be on there, that might be what pushes me over edge into actually downloading that app. I've stayed away from it. I've had people say, you've got to create TikToks. I don't know what a TikTok is, man.
I just know it's going to be easier for me than diving into, I want to do YouTube, but I know the work that goes into a good, beautiful production type YouTube channel, and I just don't have the time for it right now. So I know I can do TikTok.
Yeah, there you go. I like it. So tell us a little bit more about what your role is now with the organization you're with.
Yeah, dude, I'm living life to the fullest. I love this new job. Industry analyst and content creator for industrial strength marketing. I do a lot with biz dev though. Do a lot of business development. Industry analyst allows me to still go to these trade shows and further my application skills and actually understand processes and technologies. Because now I can sit in on our meetings with our clients where they ask us, well, what do you know about us? And you got Jacob piping up over here. Well, actually, I used to use this. I used to use your product in this situation. And I've seen other colleagues use your product and your competitors in this situation. And then they're like, oh, you speak my language. Let me talk to this.
That's awesome.
And so I've been loving it, man. And they support the heck out of my personal channel and all my personal assets that I try to pursue with education, going into schools, public speaking, podcast. They love it.
Yeah. So speaking of the next generation, you do work a lot with FIRST Robotics, right?
Yeah, I've been doing that. For 6 years. So when I was 17?
Okay.
Yeah, so 17 or 18 is when I started. I'd actually get calls from up and down the coast in California of schools 6 hours away in Napa asking, will you come judge my competition? Because I heard that you judged this competition in Central Valley and you were awesome. And so I'd actually drive 6 hours to Napa Valley, judge a competition. That was FTC. And I like to say, I'm the youngest judge that FIRST doesn't know they have, because technically, I have never been allowed to judge the competitions that I do because of my age.
Really?
They have age restrictions, but the teachers have always, or the judge advisors, whoever runs the organization, has always signed off because I have the actual industry experience well over any of these other judges.
Yeah.
So they've always seen that it was the right thing to do, and I've always proved that it was well worth it. And I've been doing it for 6 years now. And if it makes them feel better, I'll be legal at the end of this year. I'll be 20, I'll be 25. So, you know.
Oh, it's so odd to hear somebody say I'll be legal when talking about judging. I mean, if you've got the skill set, you've got the skill set, right?
Well, they do it just because for certain groups, because it goes all the way down to like first graders. So FLL, FTC, and FRC. I only ever judged FTC, and so they required, I think, 21. So I wasn't that far off. I think it was 18 or 21 actually. So I was a little off. But when you get down to like FLL and stuff, they want you to, I think, be 24 or 25 or something, just because it's the younger kids, you know?
Yeah.
So I totally respect it. And that's why I always told whoever was running the organization, I was like, look, here's my experience. Like, I've been doing it for this long. You can say yes or no. I love working with the kids. It also helps that I have already the education experience of working with those students to begin with.
Yeah.
They also do a great job of doing the safety background checks. I had to get fingerprinted and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't regret 1 minute of it. I love doing FLL, FTC, and FRC. The older kids are the ones that I'll actually interview and get on camera and let them tell some of their story.
Yeah.
That stuff is super powerful, man. And it's kind of fun with like the FLL kids just being there in the moment and experiencing it. Dude, I have 2 quick stories on that. One of them is because they present to a judge. And so this last year, it was about renewable energy. So they could pick solar, they could pick EV, whatever. And they would present it to the judges. And then the competition with the robots they build is around that theme as well.
Okay.
The younger kids, so these are like third graders, had this presentation and they did it like a little newscast. And so they had little microphones, little props, and they're talking to us in the room. And they're like, and now for a quick commercial break. And they go, be-doo, be-doo, be-doo. And they start organizing their equipment into like a new set. And then when we're back from the commercial break, one of the kids has on a lab coat. And then the little girl was like, and we have with us a scientist. That was an amazing moment for me, and I'll never forget that.
That's awesome. Little mini Tony Guns out there, huh?
Oh my gosh. That was an amazing moment. And then another one where I actually had my first emotional moment was you'll have, I'm trying to phrase this the politically correct way. You'll have a diverse group of students at these competitions, some on the spectrum, some with just some different ways of dealing with like emotions and mental states. And so you have to interact with them in a more relaxed and just take your time kind of way. You got to have patience.
Sure. More neurodiverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I understand that pretty well. Some of the other older judges don't understand all the time. And so we have some good talks in the room. But there was this one time where I was interviewing a team. This one was FTC. So a little older kids, not high school yet. But like 6th to 8th grade.
Okay.
And super cool team. It was fun to talk to. And, I remember one of them, you can tell was nervous and maybe a little more shy and just different in the group. And so I like to make sure that they can have a chance to interact and engage in these meetings because they're not always the first ones to talk. You can tell sometimes they have their roles. Yeah. And so I was like directing questions to her. Like she was actually like having fun answering them. She started piping in more towards the end. And long story short, that team ended up actually winning an award during the competition. And so we all line up in a row, all the judges and stuff. The kids run through high fives, things like that to get their award. Well, this team recognized me as one of the first judges they saw because they see, I think, like maybe 10 judges throughout the day.
Yeah.
And she squeezed my hand, like going through the thing. And I was like, they're probably just excited. And then once we're all cleaning up and stuff, I'm helping my judge advisor. This girl runs over to me and like is all excited talking to her mom or maybe like a mentor or something. Like runs over to me and then hugs me. And like I throw my hands up in the air because I'm like, what the frick is going on? And I like look at my judge advisor and he's just laughing and he walks away. And this girl is like, Thank you so much for judging us and being here at the competition with us. You don't know how much this award means to us. She's talking super fast. And I'm just so grateful. And I was like, oh yeah, it's like you deserved it. And then she like went away, dude. Bro, I like found the nearest curtain and I went behind it and cried. I was like,
Oh
this is nuts. Like I've judged these competitions for 6 years and I've never like felt like emotionally like this. Like it was a crazy experience, man.
I mean, people who are on the spectrum or neurodiverse in some way, shape, or form, they're a great fit for manufacturing careers, right? So I love that story. Well done.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. That's why I push people to go judge or go see or do something with these competitions.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, you're the Gen Z advocate for manufacturing, in my estimation. I mean, there may be other people out there who do what you do, but you're the one who I've followed the longest. I know most about. So let's talk a little bit about generations in manufacturing, because we have 4 generations. We've got the baby boomers on one side, the Gen Zs on the other. You've got a really small population of Gen Xers. You've got a larger population of millennials. And then you've got the Gen Zs, which seem to be coming close to being able to level the playing field with the baby boomers as far as the population is concerned.
Yeah.
You talked about how your dad didn't want you to get into construction. And I think that affected Gen X a lot. People wanting something better for their children than what they knew manufacturing to be. Talk to us how this kind of dynamic has shaped your perspective on the industry.
Yeah, a few quick things. The whole I like to say that I am the Gen Z advocate for manufacturing and automation and the Gen Z voice for that. And I say that not as in it's us against everybody else. Sometimes people like to talk about their generations as it's a verse this, verse that.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I just saw a gap in Gen Z's representation in this industry. And so I make sure to fill it where when people see Jacob, they think Gen Z.
Yeah.
So you can think about the generation as a whole, but when it comes to what I'm trying to do for education and what I'm trying to do to change the industry, it's to change everybody. It's to help. I don't care what generation, millennial, Gen X, Gen B, Z, X, Y, Z. Like I don't care. I don't care. It's how I feel with titles. I have a title that I like and enjoy just because I know I need it to get in certain doors. But I want this better for everybody, man. And something that you mentioned with perceptions, generational perceptions of jobs.
Yeah.
The dad that raised me said that he didn't want me to be in construction, right? He didn't say that because he doesn't enjoy what he's doing. Like he was a contractor. He owned his own business. He loved building homes. He loves finishing bathrooms and kitchens, like the beauty in it.
Yeah.
He didn't want me to do it because he didn't think there was anywhere to go in it because of the perception that construction has in society. And that's something that's starting to hope. I see it changing, and I'm hoping that it's changing in a way that I think it is, because I obviously don't see like millions of kids every year, but I see hundreds or a few thousand. And kids are starting to say, oh, well, I want to be a diesel mechanic. That's freaking dope.
Yeah.
That is cool. And there was a woman or a young lady that said, she's like, yeah, I want to be a diesel mechanic for this and this reason. I was like, that's freaking sweet. There's other kids wanting to still do those quote unquote dirty or dull, just remedial tasks that people aren't pushing anymore, the kids want to do them.
Yeah.
It's the disconnect is happening when they get into it and when they have their first bad experience from like an old head or somebody that doesn't enjoy their work.
Yep.
That's when they get out.
Yep.
That's when they're like, oh, this is nasty. This is gross. Why would I want to do this for a career? And they take the boot and they go into some tech job, or they go into maybe even just consumer good job or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the issue I see a lot of, because I go into schools and I'll do this thing. When you used to get asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? that question was a loaded question back then. If you said the quote unquote wrong job, you're going to get told, oh, well, you shouldn't do that because of this and that. And so kids don't like hearing that. Yeah. And so what I do when I do that question is, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? I ask a bunch of people and I try to get kids, I think that'll give me a funny answer. I got a guy that told me, he's like, oh, I want to be a stripper. Everybody started laughing. And then I asked some other kids and they were like, I don't know. And then I asked some other kids and they were like, oh, I want to be the diesel mechanic. I want to be this. I want to be a technician. And then I have gifts that I hand out. And I went and I handed out gifts undiscriminatory, where I gave it to the kids that said, I don't know. I gave it to the stripper kid. I gave it to the diesel mechanic. And you can see they visibly look confused. And I'm like, people, I want you guys to understand this. I don't care what you want to do. And you see all the kids like perk up, like they visibly went inward, like they leaned in, like, what did he just say?
Yeah.
I don't care what you want to do. I care if it's what you want to do. If you know in your heart that, man, I don't know what I want to do for work yet, cool. I love that for you. I want to support you in the unknown and you being able to do whatever you think a passion is for you right now. Yeah. If you know what you want to do, cool. I want to support you in that. If you're just goofing around because you want to be funny and just joke around, cool. I'll support you in that. If you know that it's something that you're doing, like that, I just want them to be true to themselves. Yeah. And that's something that you never got, I feel like, in a lot of the older generations, that sense of you knowing you. It was, how does society know you?
That's
how is society to label you?
That's a powerful point. I think that's true. Because that question, in the 90s when I was going through middle and high school, what you answered, that really that defined your path. I did a lot better in, it was called shop back then, wood shop and metal shop classes. I excelled in those. I was like you. I didn't like homework. I didn't see the value in homework. I would get A's on tests and on essays. So why do I need to do the homework, the busy work? So I saw a shop class as the place where I didn't have homework, right? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't because I was lazy. It was because I felt like that sense of pride at the end of the day, when I could stand back and say, I made this toolbox, or I made this gumball machine out of wood, right? I mean, that was what drove me. And then being part of that, Gen X, that late Gen X group that was really pushed to university, whether it fits you or not. And I went off to university and made it an entire semester before I was like, this is dumb. I'm not getting anywhere. I don't know what I want to be. I had gone into a philosophy. I mean, I changed majors 3 times in the first 6 days of my university experience. I started as philosophy, then anthropology, then I think it was business. And then within the first 2 weeks, I knew it wasn't for me. So I made it 1 semester and stopped going to school and learned to trade. Right. But I think that, that for me, I didn't know that it still defined the young generation. I didn't step out of my own way and start thinking, do people still define young people by that question that they ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? And, it starts as, I want to be a cowboy or an astronaut or firefighter when they're really young, to, I want to be a soccer player, or I want to be whatever they start to idolize, to in high school and late middle school, they're able to verbalize a little bit more of what interests them. But it sounds like people are still defining the pathways that these young people are going to take based on an answer that you ask on the first day of school and ask them to draw a picture about, right? That's wild to me.
I feel like now it's less about the question, because back then there was so much of the population still valued what that question meant and what it held for your status.
Yeah.
But now I feel like it's been broken down through new age millennial thinking, and then a lot of the Gen Z being like, I don't care. But now people are judging, in the school systems especially, off of action. So now it's the kids that aren't going to college. Now it's the kids that aren't turning in their homework. Now it's the kids that aren't doing this. Now all of them are potential problems. Like I was labeled a problem kid in high school. And so now it's switched up from asking this question, and it's if you don't care, or if you don't know right away what you want to do, well, you're not going to be anything. Yeah. And so that's part of the problem as well when it comes to inside the school systems.
Yeah, I agree. And I've had some young people on the show here, Jacob, that they've talked about their mental health that they were going through.
Oh yeah.
And what manufacturing technology type programs did for their mental health, because they were walking through life in high school. And, it's not just goth kids. It's not just the skaters that are into this stuff, right? They're walking through high school and not feeling like they had a place or a sense of belonging. This one young woman from New York was on the show, and she said, I was 16 years old. I was, finishing my sophomore year of high school. I wanted to drop out. I was super depressed. I had anxiety. My parents said I needed to keep going to school, but we found an alternative program for me. And it was this Wamoko school in Northwestern New York. And she said she started the program, and her anxiety went away, her depression went away. She found a place where she belonged, with people that she felt like she belonged with. And so she went through the final 2 years, graduated, got a job in industry. And I just recently had a follow-up conversation off air with her, and it goes back to that point you just made about the old heads. She had a couple of guys give her a hard time on a job site, and now she wants to leave the industry altogether and join the military or something of that. And it's heartbreaking, man. So how do we change that dynamic?
Yes.
With these old heads that are so just, I don't know, man. It's brutal.
Since you opened up that can of worms, yeah, I'm glad that I'm not going to derail our conversation with this now that this is the next topic. Mental health is also a big thing that I talk about on a lot of my podcasts that I've been on. If you stay till the end, you'll actually notice that I always drop a mental health subject or tip, no matter what the topic was on beforehand.
Oh, I haven't stayed till the end. I'm gonna start. So I apologize for not being the person who stayed till the end. And
you're good, dude. I do it on purpose. Keep it till the end. If whoever stays. But mental health has been a big thing for me. Even recently. I mean, just 3 weeks ago, I went through this week and a half sad spell where I was like, man, what is wrong with me? Like, usually this is gone like after a week. I like, it's a week and a half, is sticking around a little longer. But in high school, man, I lost two of my friends and one of my cousins. Is there a politically correct way to I know sometimes the word's triggering. They are not around anymore by their own accord.
Got it.
So two of my friends, one of them was my wrestling partner, and then yeah, my cousin. And it's something that so 3 years. So high school's 4 years. Losing somebody every year almost is pretty wild.
Yeah.
And it's something that a lot of the other generations don't really understand, because I don't know if that stuff was just maybe it's people like to say it's happening more now because of social media, or it's happening because of different types of bullying. You never know back then with how easy it was to just cover stuff up because people were ashamed. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
But now it's very easy to know, because of social media and holding digital vigils and stuff. But man, that was a big thing that I would get bullied. I've been bullied. I like to say I've been bullied by freaking 40-year-old men since I was 16. I'd be going into these businesses, holding these machinist meetups to teach and help people. And there's these 30-year-old guys coming in here and being like, why is he talking? Like, somebody tell him to sit down. Like, dude, I've been laughed out of meetings for my ideas. And it's crazy. What I don't understand is and it has to be the culture and the older heads way of doing things, because we lose the inclusion. Like you mentioned, man, manufacturing automation, these classes, these hands-on skills, these traits give people a sense of pride and owning and ownership of something that they can say, I did that, point at something and say, I did that.
Yeah.
Why are we losing that inclusion when it comes to the big world, when it comes to getting your big boy or big girl job? And now you're an adult. We're losing that aspect of, this used to be what filled me with pride, and now it's something that just gives me a check. And that mindset is what's filtering down to all the other younger generations, where they're either going to leave because it's toxic, or they're just going to be like, well, I'm going to do the bare minimum of my work then, just so I can get my check and work on my side hustle that actually fills me with joy and fills me with pride and still gives me a little extra money.
Yep. Absolutely.
It needs to be a change of how we talk about the work that we do, man. And you know what? Some of it does suck. I'm going to be real. Some of it in a lot of different industries, not just our industry, a lot of the work that we have to do just as humans isn't fun.
Yeah.
And there has to be a way for you to find joy with the people you're around to make it through those days. And then once you get out, something that you can find more joy in. Yeah. But when we're lucky enough, and I say lucky and privileged with the highest sense to be in this industry, where I have a good job and I have a good team, and if I was making work for somebody else, somebody new in this industry, like, who am I to do that? Who am I to affect somebody else's trajectory for their life, man? I get so worked up when I see kids going to trade shows, and I say kids loosely. I still get called a kid. I'm 24. So I use that term loosely. Younger people going to trade shows and going up to a booth and like trying to talk about it or something, and people ignoring them. Yeah. Grown adults ignoring this person trying to gain knowledge or want to find out about what it is you do. And because you don't see them and see dollar signs, you're not giving them the time of day. I get so worked up, dude.
That's the potential next generation of this industry. And they should be the ones that you're inviting in, teaching a little bit more, because they may not know the technology. They may not have done their research ahead of time of the show to plan out their experience, knowing what they need for their shop. Right?
And outside of that too, outside of it being a potential workforce, imagine what that can do for, let's say you have your internal employees, your internal team, because a workforce isn't just new people you can hire, it's your team. It's the workforce that's driving the company now. Imagine if you can instill some pride and mentorship or leadership in that, I don't know what people call them at companies, but like that trouble employee that has that bad attitude. Imagine if you can give them some type of responsibility and it changes them. Like talking to that kid or engaging with that young person can also affect your team. Even if it's just for a moment, man, getting that feeling in your gut of you see that fire light up in that person's eyes where you just help them discover something. That should bring pride to you no matter what you do and who you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how do we change this paradigm, Jacob? I mean, from your perspective.
I have a few things when it comes to like at trade shows and community events, which I kind of group together. And then when it comes to your internal vibe,
Mhm.
and this, I try to do this blanketing because what you really should is look at the population of different demographics that are in your business. And within that, look at which ones are in leadership positions and who is under them. Because you just have to understand that you have to talk and have to engage and offer these generations different things. There is no offering everybody the same and expecting everybody to just be neutral and be happy. Some people are going to be upset more than others. So taking that leadership dive, where's my demographics? Where are those demographics in my leadership? And where are they at within the rest of the team? And I actually work with a lot of companies to do internal development for a lot of aspects of their business. There's this one company that I work with where I got them to change up their benefit package, and they're a manufacturing company. They now offer unlimited vacation time, and I gave them this tiered benefit package that I put in different offerings depending on the lifestyle I know a lot of Gen Z has or a lot of millennial has and Gen X. So now they can choose and pick these offerings to suit their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it's just these little things you can do up front to make people happier when they come in, start them off on the right foot. And that's for your internal team. Offering community events and outings that don't always have to be some big company thing, because a lot of those sometimes feel awkward and forced. But offering these things for people to just go hang out as a group together, as a group of friends. That's also the only F word I should ever hear in the workplace. Do not use the family word.
Oh,
Kill that,
thank you.
destroy it,
Thank
get
you.
rid of it. I know some people are still like, well, it depends. Just call each other colleagues or friends. Like, just
Right.
leave family for Thanksgiving. I don't care.
It's really hard to hold grandma or grandpa accountable the way that you need to hold each other accountable in the workplace, right? That's always been a huge pet peeve of mine, and I've gone back and forth with people at conferences and trade shows and events over this subject. And maybe that's what we can dive into in part 2 of this conversation when we do it via video. But
yeah,
I mean, that's one of my biggest pet peeves as well.
That's a whole nother thing. But
Yeah.
that's what to do with, I think, internal strategies. When it comes to external, I want businesses to understand this. You guys know you can open up your doors to people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, something that I pitch a lot of companies to do is actually having their own community days. Like, you're confused on why people don't know about these trades and why people don't know what your business does. Open up your doors. Pick a Saturday, pick a Sunday where you can have a few team members, pay them some extra money to come in on a weekend, bring the family, and do some tours or run some demos and get some food, have like a potluck or something. Make it your own little community fun event to let these kids in, let these families come in. The big thing is you got to if you want to change culture and you want to change perspective, it's not just what's happening inside your business, it's what's happening at home. Yeah. If people are making other people feel like, if I say I'm in a manufacturing job, I'm dirty, then they're going to think they're freaking dirty.
Yep.
It's not just changing what you're doing. It's not just changing the kids' mindsets. All of us as colleagues and grown adults need to change how we're thinking about this holistically. And a lot of people just don't know. There's a huge population out there that isn't in manufacturing and they don't know.
Yeah.
So open up your doors.
Yeah.
That's a community thing. What were you gonna say?
I love that. My job is to go in and talk with people about their culture internally. Mm-hmm. And shame on me. I just learned something from the one, the only Jacob Sanchez here. I need to start talking with them about that external factor as well. Because that's a huge part of creating that company culture.
I'm thankful to say that I'm starting to get a lot more companies get some trust in me and instill some responsibility in me to prove to them that this works. I'm working with was working with Amper Technologies on a community day event that'll most likely happen next year if we still follow through. IGUS, the company that gave me my robot arm, they gave it to me from Germany because they believed in what I was doing for education, and they wanted me to have something to actually show people out in the real world. I'm going to be taking this thing to stores, to parks, to random places to show just I say average Joe loosely, I guess, just civilians out there that aren't in our world. Understand just a little bit more that this stuff isn't scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think a lot of people think that metal parts like grow in the ground fully formed, right? And so that's an important job, and thank you for doing it.
And it's not a bash on them. If anything, it's a bash on us. Like I'll take full responsibility for somebody in my area not understanding this piece of technology, because what am I doing to get out there and help them understand? It's not their job to know where their water bottles and stuff come from, but it should be part of our job. If I'm a PET mold making like distributor, manufacturer, whatever, to educate the world on, like, let's say plastics, for example. People still think plastics have a really bad rap when it comes to the environment and recyclability. And it's something that hinders the plastics industry. Well, plastics industry companies, all you people out there, start doing more to change it. I'm confused. And at trade shows, just to finish that up with the round 3, at trade shows, look for ways to actually get the demographic that you want to the show. If you're really focused on, I don't know, like people from 21 to 25 in this demographic, find a school, find a college in your area or in the show's area, reach out to them on how you can get a group of 50 of them to the show, and just do it. There's nothing else to say there. And if it's a money thing, guess what? I bet you we're all about business. We're all about swinging deals. And maybe this is just the first grade hustler in me, but work with a partner or a distributor or a company and say, hey, you know what? We want to do this thing with these 50 students. We can make this a cross-branding promotion for us. You give us this amount of money. We put in this amount of money. We can brand it on socials. They can visit our booth, your booth. We'll bring some buzz around it.
Yeah, I love it.
You know what I'm saying? Keep doing that until you get a yes.
I love that. That's fantastic. So Jacob, we're nearing the end here, and so there will be a part 2 for anybody out there listening. We will do a part 2 with Jacob, and we will do it via video because I want to see his reaction the next time I do an intro for him. But you've got a busy schedule coming up. I know by the time this airs, a lot of things that are happening in the next week or so will already be complete, like Pack Expo, Fat Tech, etc. What does the rest of 23 and the start of 24 look like for Jacob Sanchez?
So let's say the next week's done. So Fab Tech and Pack Expo are done. I have a manufacturing day road tour that I will be going on for industrial strength marketing. The companies are still a secret, but that's going to be a very big thing that we're going to be pushing on our channels. I'm speaking at the Task event in Novi about lights out automation, how to make money doing it, and what lights out automation really means.
That's awesome.
That's going to be amazing. I am going to Japan for 3 weeks.
What?
I'm going to the IREX 2023 robotics convention. It is one of the largest robotics conventions in the world.
That's amazing. Do you need somebody to come read the intro that I wrote for you? Because I'm volunteering, man.
I will do it in Japanese, right?
I will learn Japanese for that experience. If that gets me there, reading that bio, introducing you, getting you up on stage, getting people pumped up about Jacob Sanchez, I will absolutely do that.
I am so excited for that, man. The show is going to be 4 days. I've never been anywhere international before. I'm going by myself. I'm only bringing 2 bags. And one of them is my content backpack. The other one is just a normal backpack. So technically 1 bag. And I'm going to be there for 2.5, almost 3 weeks. After that show, I'm going to spend almost 2 weeks traveling, I think like 1,600 miles across Japan or something.
Wow. That's magical.
Just kind of experiencing that. I'm going to buy my whatever clothes and shoes I need while I'm there.
That's amazing.
And I think that's an end of the year thing. I'm also doing a very big thank you campaign, which you are a part of. I'm doing this big thank you campaign for 100 people, 100 colleagues of mine throughout this year. I can't give too much away on that, but if I start asking for your address in your DMs, it's not in a creepy way. It's to send you a gift.
I love that. Anything that comes out of your mouth, it would be hard pressed to find somebody who would find anything that came out of your mouth creepy. You've got a packed schedule. As your final thoughts, Jacob, what is your vision for the future of this industry? And again, we're going to jump into an episode 2, so I don't want you to give too much away for that, but what is your vision for the future of manufacturing, and how can the rest of us, whether we're in the industry as entrenched as myself and some of our colleagues and friends in the industry, or small shop owners, big shop owners, or regular, as you call them, civilians, how can we be a part of that vision?
The major thing that everybody has to understand, and you have to instill this in your head every day, is that you don't have to be special. That is the number one thing. You don't have to be special in this industry, and whatever industry you want to go into, you really don't. I came from nothing. I came from some average dirt, and I'm still not doing anything exceptional. I'm just doing what I want to see happen. I just want to see change, and so I'm going to be change. And that's really as simple as I can make it for I don't care how small your shop is either. If you want to do something, look at ways, not how other people are doing it, but how you can accomplish it yourself. That's that special thing. You don't say, oh, well, we're not this company. We'll never be this company. They're not special. They may have more assets than you. They may have had more opportunities, but that doesn't make them special. You can get there. And I think that's the biggest thing, and that's the only way we're going to see change in our industry, is if we realize you don't have to be special. You don't have to be a nerd or some expert or some kind of genius to get into engineering or robotics. Anybody can get started in it, and anybody in this industry can start making a difference and can start producing change. I hope one day, people like to say, what are you going to do when there's a bunch of content creators in our industry all talking about the same thing? Good.
Awesome.
Then I don't have to do it anymore. What's the problem? I'll move on to one of the other freaking 50 issues that are on our plate, because I know these people got it locked down and other people are getting after it and getting it handled. That's all I want for this industry.
Yeah. I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap for today. We started out this episode with a ton of energy. We laughed, but more importantly than anything, we had a heartwarming look into Jacob's career and his take on this industry that so often has such a negative connotation. And so thank you very much, Jacob, for being on today.
Thanks, brother.
I can't thank you enough. If you listeners are not leaving this episode feeling touched and fresh like a air freshener in a taxi cab in New York City, then you need to hit the rewind button and listen to the whole thing over again. We've tackled everything from mental health to unlocking the secrets behind trying to bridge generational divides, and hearing Jacob's story himself, from that kid who would hustle for wood chips that existed on the playground to having this empire of heartwarming content that he produces. And please, if you haven't yet, please check out his content, his show on LinkedIn, his podcast. If you haven't started buzzing like a high-speed spindle after this episode, you need to check your pulse. So if you're ready for more, don't stop this party. Swing by the manufacturingculturepodcast.com website. Keep the mojo flowing. There's show notes, there's episodes, there's blogs. It's all there waiting for you. And if this episode lit a fire under you, don't keep it a secret. Tell your pals, colleagues, and yeah, even your grandma. Smash that share button, people, and slide into your favorite podcast platform and drop us a review and a rating. Your 2 cents help us bring more people like Jacob to the show. And more importantly, it gives us more exposure on these podcast platforms, which makes sure that more people are able to see and hear the episodes. So right now, it's time to wrap it up. But remember, it's not just about the nuts and bolts. It's about lighting up the culture of this entire industry. So until next time, have a great day and keep making things.